Hello, for my final project, I decided to make a native plant succession wreath. So it's basically just showing like the very general order that plants colonize new lava. It really is only um, applicable to relatively moist areas at around 1200 meters in elevation. The exact species and time to colonize will vary depending on if you're a leeward or windward side, as well as substrate type. Yes, so Pahoehoe, the lava, can take a lot longer for a mature forest to develop than Aa, the other kind of lava, or ash. And that makes sense intuitively if you know the difference between them, which I'll get to in a second. Just because the Pahoehoe, is a lot smoother and it's more together as one, while Aa and ash have more pukas. They're very crumbly, so it creates moist areas, opportune for life to grow. So first we have lava. My representation for it is a little lame, but had to work with what I got. And it works. So yes, so as I said, this is a pahoehoe. You can tell it's very smooth. And it's formed by slow-moving lava, and it flows at a low volumetric rate, or so less lava per unit of time. And the lava often flows in tubes, and so that reduces the heat loss and allows it to cool slowly. And so that's why you see this very smooth whole surface. And this is the Aa, which is the total opposite end. This is rapid and concentrated flow in open channels to form that. And so this lava flows at a high volumetric rate, or so a larger amount of lava per unit time, and it cools quickly, which tears it into rough chunks. So temperature and gases influence whether the lava is Aa or Pahoehoe. And new lava can take a pretty long time to cool. Um, so even if like the surface is air temperature, the interior flow is probably still super hot. So after it rains, steam is created and it kills any germinating spores or any life that may be forming. So you have to wait until the interior cools, and then you can reach the first stage of early rainforest succession, which is called the stereocolin-lichen stage. And so the first life is usually cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, um, and it is known as cyanophyta, this phylum, and is unlike other true algae. It is considered to be more of a structurally advanced bacteria because they lack a nucleus and exhibit other primitive characteristics. Next we have mosses and low-growing ferns. So this one here is Kupu Kupu of the family Nephrolepis. These are very common, and you probably have some in your background or backyard. I know I've always had in my yard. Because these spores, though, they're very, very tiny. They're on the underside of the fern leaves. They are easily carried by the wind, and 95% of ferns and their allies, so mosses and stuff, arrived by wind, and the other 5% was by birds. It is estimated there were 114 founders, which have evolved into 178 different endemic and indigenous species. Next up are the lichens, who start to appear after around 4 years. So this is who the first part of this stage was named after, the Stereocolon bucani. So lichens are very interesting organisms. They are mutualistic symbionts, meaning they're composed of two different species who both benefit from their relationship. So a fungus and an alga grow together and form a completely different new organism, and it has ecological and metabolic enhancements. The fungus gains photosynthate, or energy, from the alga in the form of sugar and such, and the alga benefits from the fungus for protection, nutrients, and water. So this is a very crucial stage because the lichen acids break down rock surfaces by producing carbonic acid, and calcium and magnesium are removed and iron oxide is produced, which is an essential plant nutrient. Potassium and nitrogen are also nutrients essential for plant growth, and they're made available by the lichen. So seed plants are now able to establish thanks to the lichen breaking down the substrate. So Ohia lehua, or Mestrosideros polymorpha, is the first flowering plant to colonize new lava. It was estimated to have arrived 3.9 to 6.3 million years ago, and the tiny seeds, they're only around 0.3 by 1.5 millimeter, make this tree shrub very easily dispersed by the wind. They found that a wind just as slight as 6 miles an hour can keep them floating, so it is very likely they were blown to the islands from the seeds of a founder in the myrtle family.
No, it's okay.
And this is a video my sister got when we were hiking to collect these plants. They were all collected on Manana Ridge, by the way, which is a very gorgeous hike. I definitely recommend. I wasn't expecting to find that many. Well, I found a good amount of native plants. There was a lot more than some other hikes. There was like barely any strawberry guava. It was gorgeous. And at this stage, it's the trees are not going to be this big, but this is just a really pretty photo. There's so much blossoms. They're all blossoming right now. You should definitely go hike if you have the means to. Next, we see the native pioneer shrubs start to appear, and they'll develop into saplings along with the ohia. And so examples are ohelo or vaccinium. This example I have shown on the wreath is definitely a Kia, the poisonous version, which they look very, very similar though, so I thought it would be a good representation. But I think I did get the Pukiave. This one is the Ohelo berry. They're super good, the nene eat them. And then this is the Pukiave, and this is Nae. I was not able to find anything that looked similar to this one either, but they're very pretty. Next is the stage Dicranopterus. It's the fern stage, which occurs around 50 to 100 years after. So this here is a ma'u or Sadleria species, and they're red tree ferns. They can grow super big. They're like 1 meter tall, and back in before contact with Europeans, the common agricultural method for agroforestry planting, they would pull these ferns out, and then there'd be a remaining hole left, and they'd just plant the crops in there. So no need to dig, and need any tools. It's just the perfect depth already. Then it is Uluhe, who the stage is named after, Dicranopterus linearis. And so around this time, the ohia are still juveniles, so the canopy, it still allows a lot of direct sunlight in, which is perfect for uluhe growth, and they can just totally take over the forest floor, and that prevents any more ohia seedlings to develop, because ohia seedlings, they are generally shade tolerant, but seedlings need the sun to develop into saplings. So this right here was a very great example of the uluhe and then the juvenile ohia up there. As well as seedlings dying, the underlying lichens all die at this point once they're fully covered by the uluhe. So yeah, if you've ever been hiking, you know just how lovely these plants are. They love to trip and scratch you, grab at your feet. But they are super vital for the water table. They slow the water flow, and they allow it to percolate back onto the table. So yes, we need to save these ferns, love them. They also prevent the spread of invasives and weeds because of their thick mat-like growth. They're super hard to propagate yourself though, so we can't lose these. We wouldn't be able to bring them back. It'd be super hard. And then this here is just a shot I got. I don't remember what ridge this was. It might have been Vailupe, but it just shows how much the uluhe take over. They totally dominate the open forest floor. This one here is Vovai Iole, Paulhinehea surunia, and the common name is rat's foot, or I guess that's just what it means in English. Next, we enter the Cybodium tree fern stage. The ohia are mature, so the canopy is closed, and the uluhe die back, which allows tree ferns to develop because they are shade tolerant and they do quite well. Also, at this stage, the substrate is considered to be histosol soil, which is just soil comprised entirely of organic material. Because the dead plant matter have been accumulating, insects and fungus, so it just creates a really nice rich humus and other organic matter. And so this is Hapu'u, or the Cybodium, who the stage is named after as well. And they dominate the undergrowth in closed forests. They replace the uluhe once the ohia are mature enough. So Hawaiian rainforests, they lack late successional canopy trees, meaning ohia remains the principal canopy species throughout the rainforest cycle, I guess. There are, however, subcanopy trees, which end up replacing the earlier shrubs mentioned. So this here I had to represent Nayo. This is the real version. The one I found was they have very similar leaves, but totally different flowers. Its scientific name is Myporium sandwichens. And then next we have Iliahi, Santalum species. The sandalwood, otherwise known as, they can grow up to 15 meters. The plant I found probably was not true Iliahi, but yeah, they did look very similar. I'm not too sure. I figure it isn't just because I thought they were super rare because you hear all the stories of over harvesting, but hopefully they are making a comeback. It's been a while since that was banned, so should be seeing them again. Next, this is the Ie or Freycinetia arborea. They belong to the screw pine family. I really wish I'd gotten a picture of these because they grow super interesting. They wrap around the trunks of the trees and just climb their way up. They can grow up to 60 feet and spread out over 15 feet. The flowers and the fruits, they were the favorite food of Alala or the Hawaiian crow, and also the honey creeper O'u, who actually had a specialized bill for eating these fruits. They were both super important for pollinating and seed dispersal, but now that they are pretty close to being extinct, sadly, the primary pollinator is the Japanese white-eye now. They are not native, but at least they found a good role. They found a good niche to occupy and are not invasive. So next, after the death of many trees, we can see Pepeao akua or Auricularia cornea growing on their fallen trunks. This is also known as wood ear because they look very much like ears. This is the real Pepeao. I could not find that one, but the one I found, this one, is the red polypore. Looks very similar. They look like ears too. Along with the fungus, there's many different types of mosses now. They're growing on the trees, the forest floor, just everywhere. Next, we see our friend Ohia again. This part of the succession, there is a dieback of many mature Ohia. It's not from disease like the rapid Ohia death, which is way more rapid. But it's like a normal stage of the tree's life cycle. Like we grow old, we die. And if the tree fern canopy isn't too dense, then a new generation of ohia can grow. So this is the dieback right here. You can see it extends pretty far. And so there's a great diversity of ohia morphology due to hybridization, which is cross-fertilization between populations at a lower taxonomic level. They think it was for the ohia. So like they're all the same species, but some just grow huge and others will remain shrub-like. Their environment also determines size, as they're commonly more shrub-like at high elevations. As you can see at the top of the ridge, they're very, very small. And then in the other examples, they're just so huge. Now we're at about 300 to 400 years, and this is when the forest is at its climax stage. So this here, I got to represent. This is not it. They do have very similar leaves. The flowers look very different though. But this is Kava'u or Ilex anomala. I couldn't figure out what this species I found was, but they smell so good. This is a picture I took. I'm holding the Naupaka, Mountain Naupaka, but the other side, I just couldn't find what they were, but they smell really good. They smell like Cabbage Patch Kids. This is the Hawaiian holly, though, that was supposed to represent. So yeah, if anyone knows what they are, I'd love to know. It's really hard to look at the online guides. They're super slow and laggy and no pictures really. But next, again, this is not the actual plant. This one was actually super off. Not even the leaves look the same. But I got it to represent Olapa or Chirodendron trignum. I think I just saw the black pods and I was like, oh, that's it. That's the one I need. I was doing it off memory. I didn't have any service or anything, but I think it's a good sub-in. So the Olapa, not the one I found. This is the right one. They can grow 15 to 50 feet, so pretty different. And the fruits, or I the fruit, they were a source of food for a lot of native birds like the oma'o and the o'o or o'u. But yeah, now they're likely extinct, so sad. But it is good that they were not too closely evolved and intertwined so that the trees may still exist. Because too often we see the two species were co-evolved and then they just both are wiped out. And so a lot of people consider koa, this is koa, to be a dominant with the ohia, but they actually prefer soil substrate rather than lava. So they're a pioneer tree, but they're not dominant. And they're more common in less wet old growth rainforests rather than the super wet rainforests. And then this one too is not on my wreath, but I thought it was a very cool plant. This is the bird's nest fern, or Ikaha asplenium nidus. And this and a lot of other epiphytes, they grow super high in big trees. They're just fun to look at. I didn't see any on my hike though. So now this is considered a complete rainforest with ohia and tree ferns as co-dominants. You can see pretty well here, it's just all ohia and the tree ferns. This was on the top of Ka'ala at the forest reserve, so if you want to find native plants, that is the best place to go. So although this is considered the climax or the final stage, it is very different than one you would see elsewhere around the world. The final dominant species is the same as the original pioneers, which is not normally seen. And these forests are relatively less biodiverse than rainforests with similar climatic conditions in less isolated parts of the world. They're just missing, like a lot of taxa are underrepresented. So yeah, this reflects the disharmonic nature of Hawaiian biota, which is a biased representation of taxa that is not normally as prevalent elsewhere as it is here. This here I have to represent lava or other major disturbances. This can happen at any stage of the plant succession, but for continuity's sake I put it at the end. So when a lava flow cuts through the rainforest, patches of rainforest survive, and these are called kipuka. And they're basically like an oasis of surviving vegetation. And these vegetation islands or other nearby vegetation that's still intact provides most of the propagules for plant growth on the newly ejected volcanic substrate. So the process just repeats itself, and Yeah, this is why we commonly see different age stands. The Hawaiian rainforest, they are not even aged, and that's a common property that is seen. And so here is just a final shot of the whole wreath again. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation and that I was able to teach you all something. Stay safe, go have fun hiking. There's lots to see out there still. Thank you.